My fiancée wrongly accused me to have me locked up. With a cruel smirk, she whispered, "Enjoy your time behind bars, failure." She didn't realize my one permitted call went to my father, the city's police chief. He strode into the precinct and calmly asked the officer, "Can you clarify why my son is in restraints? I'm a firefighter. My career revolves around charging into blazing infernos while others flee. It's a life rooted in trust, focus, and keeping cool when chaos erupts." I believed my relationship with my fiancée, Rachel, was grounded in those same values. Turns out it was built on a powder keg, and she was just waiting for the perfect moment to ignite it. The spark came last night. We had a fight, the same one we'd been circling for months. It was about finances, specifically her reckless spending of my money. I'm not rich, but I'm careful. I own my modest home, pay my bills promptly, and save for the future. Rachel, however, treats credit cards like a genie's lamp, conjuring up luxury purses and lavish spa trips. The fight intensified. She demanded I co-sign a loan for a flashy car she couldn't afford. I said no. My refusal was steady, reasoned, and absolute. But this time, something in her broke. Her irritation morphed into a chilling, venomous rage. She began shouting, calling me stingy and overbearing. Then she did something that shifted everything. She grabbed a heavy crystal vase, a keepsake from my late grandmother, and smashed it against the wall, sending shards flying. Then, with a sly, triumphant grin, she clawed her own arm with her manicured nails, drawing a faint trickle of blood. "Leave my house!" she screamed, her voice suddenly quivering with fake fear. "My house?" I asked, my tone low and measured. "This is my house, Rachel." "Not for long," she spat. Then she pulled out her phone and called 911. I stood there, stunned, as she delivered a tearful, award-worthy act to the dispatcher. She claimed I'd turned violent, thrown the vase at her, and that she feared for her safety. It was a lie so bold, so detached from reality, that I could barely comprehend it. When the police arrived, 2 officers in uniform, they saw a sobbing, distraught woman with a scratch on her arm and broken glass on the floor. They saw me, a man twice her size, standing in grim silence. In moments like these, procedure takes over. They don't see nuance. They see a potential danger. They separated us, took her statement, and then approached me. As they cuffed me, Rachel stepped onto the porch. Her tears had vanished, replaced by that same icy, gloating smirk. She leaned close as an officer led me to the squad car and whispered, "Have fun in jail, loser." I didn't respond. I just met her gaze. I let her savor her apparent victory. I let her think she'd triumphed. At the station, they placed me in a stark, antiseptic holding room. They took my belt and shoelaces, read me my rights, and informed me I could make one phone call. Rachel's whole scheme hinged on one arrogant assumption, that I was isolated. She thought I was just a humble firefighter with no influence, no allies, no one to turn to. She knew my father was a cop. She'd met him a few times. She assumed he was just some aging officer, maybe a desk clerk nearing retirement. She had no clue who he really was. My father and I have a complex history. My name is James Carter. I took my mother's maiden name at 18. I did it to carve my own path, free from the towering shadow of my father, the respected, formidable, and sometimes daunting police chief of the entire metropolitan region. I picked up the phone. I didn't call an attorney. I called my dad. The hour in that holding cell felt endless. It was a cold, concrete room that reeked of disinfectant and despair. I wasn't afraid. I'm a firefighter. I've faced far worse. But I felt a deep sense of betrayal. Rachel hadn't just lied. She'd weaponized the very system my father had devoted his life to against me. I heard the heavy metal door at the end of the corridor buzz open. Footsteps echoed. Steady, commanding, not the hesitant shuffle of a public defender. They carried weight. The footsteps stopped outside my cell. A moment later, the small window in the door revealed the face of the officer who'd arrested me, now pale and visibly anxious. He struggled with his keys, opened the door and said, his voice shaky, "Mr. Carter, you're free to go. Someone's here for you." I walked out and into the station's busy main area. There stood my father. He wasn't in uniform, just a plain dark suit, but he radiated authority. The room seemed to shift around him. Officers stood taller, spoke softer. The atmosphere was heavy with respect. He saw me, and for a brief moment, his stern expression softened. He approached and placed a hand on my shoulder. "You okay, son?" he asked quietly. I'm fine, Dad, I replied. He nodded, then turned to the desk sergeant, who looked like he might faint. My father didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His quiet presence was more powerful than any outburst. Sergeant Daniels, he began, his tone even. I was reviewing the initial arrest report for my son, James Carter. I couldn't find the part where your officers noted the position of the glass from the vase he supposedly threw. Was it inside the wall's impact point or outside? The sergeant faltered. I'm not sure, Chief. I'd need to review the full report. Do that, my father said. Because an object thrown at a wall breaks and falls inward. One smashed against a wall scatters outward. Basic physics. I'd hate to think your team overlooked such a critical detail. He then turned to the young officer who'd arrested me, now trying to disappear into a corner. Officer Hayes, my father said, reading his badge. My son has no record of violence. The accuser, his fiancée, has no history of domestic complaints. You had two conflicting accounts. What specific evidence justified a physical arrest instead of just separating them for the night? Sir, the officer stammered, sweating. The complainant had a visible injury, a scratch on her arm. Protocol requires judgment. My father interrupted, his voice still calm but now sharp as a blade. It also requires a proper investigation. Did you, for example, check her fingernails for my son's skin or blood to support her claim he attacked her? Or did you just trust a dramatic performance and cuff a first responder? He let the question linger. He wasn't shouting. He was instructing. And it was chilling to witness. He wasn't misusing his authority. He was demanding the job be done with the precision and integrity he expected from his officers. He was ensuring the case would be examined with the utmost scrutiny. He turned to me. Go home, James, he said. I've assigned this to Detective Larson in the Domestic Violence Unit. He's the best. He'll contact you tomorrow. Stay away from Rachel. Don't go near her. Let the system do its job. I left the station a free man. As I stepped into the rainy night, my phone pinged. A text from Rachel. Out already? This isn't over. I'm filing for an emergency restraining order tomorrow. That house is mine. You'll never step foot in it again. I didn't respond. I just got in my car and drove. But I wasn't heading home yet. I was going to my lawyer's office. Rachel thought this was a simple domestic spat. She had no idea it was about to become a battle. Update 2: the days after my release were a storm of calculated moves. Rachel thought she held the advantage, controlling the story. She didn't know my father's quiet intervention had flipped the entire game. I met with my lawyer first. I laid out everything, including my father's role. My lawyer, a shrewd, no-nonsense professional, saw the shift immediately. This changes the dynamic, he said. Her power was the threat of a public criminal charge. That's gone. We can strike back. He filed an emergency counterpetition in family court. We didn't just refute her claims. We accused her of malicious prosecution and abusive process. We included my sworn statement detailing the true events, including how she smashed the vase herself. We asked the court to deny her restraining order and grant one to me, securing my sole residency in my home during the legal process. Meanwhile, Detective Larson began his investigation. Larson was a department legend, a meticulous investigator who could spot a lie from miles away. He didn't just question Rachel. He unraveled her story methodically. He started with the physical evidence. As my father had noted, the crime scene photos showed the glass shards mostly outside the wall's impact point, consistent with the vase being smashed against it, not thrown. Next, he examined her injury. The scratch on her arm was precise and clean, typical of a self-inflicted mark from a nail. There were no bruises or signs of a struggle. He also secured a warrant for her phone records, uncovering texts to her best friend from the week before. He won't sign for the car loan. I'm done with him. I've got a plan to get what I deserve. If he won't give me the life I want, I'll take it. It was clear evidence of premeditation, but the decisive blow came unexpectedly. My neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson, spoke to Detective Larson during his neighborhood canvass. She'd been on her porch that night and overheard our argument through her window. She heard Rachel's screams and the sound of breaking glass, but then she noticed something odd. Rachel's voice shifted from rage to a staged, theatrical sob. It didn't sound genuine, Mrs. Thompson said. It sounded rehearsed. The final piece was Rachel's own hubris. Thinking she was in control, she'd contacted a realtor to appraise my house. The realtor, alarmed by the situation, reached out to my lawyer and shared their email exchange. Rachel had boldly stated she'd gain full possession of the property within days and wanted to sell it immediately. The evidence wasn't just suspicion. It was a fortress of proof. A calculated plot to frame me, evict me, and sell my home. The family court judge, presented with our counterpetition and Larson's preliminary findings, did exactly what we'd hoped. He rejected Rachel's restraining order and granted mine, barring her from coming within 500 feet of me or my home. The day that order was served, she realized she'd lost. She tried to oust me from my own house. Instead, she was legally banished from it. Her plan hadn't just collapsed, it had backfired spectacularly. She was no longer the accuser. She was now the subject of a criminal investigation. Final update: it's been 4 months since my life was nearly shattered by a lie. Today, that chapter is firmly and decisively closed. The legal system, when driven by truth, can be ruthlessly effective. The criminal case against Rachel moved swiftly. The district attorney, equipped with Detective Larson's airtight investigation, charged her with filing a false police report, perjury for her lies in the restraining order affidavit, and attempted insurance fraud for claiming vandalism damages to my home. Faced with overwhelming evidence, the crime scene analysis, her texts, Mrs. Thompson's testimony, and the realtor's emails, her lawyer knew a trial was hopeless. He urged her to take a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to filing a false report, and the other charges were dropped in exchange. She avoided prison but not consequences. She received 2 years of probation, a hefty fine, and mandatory counseling. Most critically, she now carries a permanent criminal record. Her attempt to paint me as an abuser left her branded a criminal. The civil case was even more rewarding. Our engagement was naturally over. I kept the ring, a conditional gift broken by her deceit, and sold it to cover legal costs. But my lawyer wasn't finished. We sued her for malicious prosecution, defamation, emotional distress, and the cost of the destroyed vase. Her guilty plea in the criminal case made her civil liability undeniable. Her attorney tried to fight, but it was futile. We settled out of court. She was forced to surrender a large chunk of her savings as damages and sign a permanent non-disclosure agreement, legally barring her from ever mentioning me in any way. Violating it would trigger crippling financial penalties. I've erased myself from her life entirely. The last I heard, Rachel's world has crumbled. Her criminal record has made employment scarce. Her friends, appalled by her actions, have cut ties. She's broke, disgraced, and isolated. She tried to steal my home and ended up losing everything. As for me, I'm rebuilding. The ordeal left wounds, but it also forged strength. My relationship with my father has been reborn. The years of stubborn distance between us are gone, burned away by this crisis. We talk weekly, watch games together, share meals. He's my dad again. Rachel thought I was weak and alone. She was wrong. My calm demeanor isn't weakness. It's the restraint of a man who knows when to act and when to wait. And I was never alone. I had family, a trump card she never anticipated. She smirked and told me to enjoy jail. But I'm the one who's free from her lies, and ready to build a life rooted in truth. She's the one trapped in a prison of her own creation.